Hello everyone, Richard here at Calvin Wazoo, and I've got another installment in the series Frank Zappa, one album at a time. We are up to The Man from Utopia. All right. And this is a fun album. Used to be in my top 20, not in my top 20 anymore, but it's still, yeah, pretty good album. Pretty good album. It was released, the LP was, in 1983, and there was a Zappa Records CD that was released in 2012. There was an other CD release, initially first by EMI Records, and that was a twofer. All right, so you had The Man from Utopia, and then you also had A Ship Arriving Too Late to Save a Drowning Witch. So that was the twofer CD release. And the current CD, which I don't have the Zappa Records, is a remixed version that Zappa did. He did the remixing in 1992. It has a slightly different track order and also an additional song, Luigi and the Wise Guys. Now, as I said, I do not have the CD release, but I'll talk a little bit because I have heard Luigi and the Wise Guys. In the 2012 release, it was Zappa Records. That does include, that is taken from the 1992 digital master or remaster. So the original LP plan was side 2 would be side 1 and side 1 would be side 2, but the way it was eventually released is the way sides 1 and 2 are. And this was a last minute decision that Frank made before the album was released. So on side 1, it's Cocaine Decisions, followed by The Dangerous Kitchen, Tink Walks Amok, The Radio is Broken, and then side 1 closes with Mogil. So that would have been side 2 in the original plan. But as it turned out, side 2, when the album was released, starts off with The Man from Utopia meets Mary Lou, then Stick Together, followed by Sex, then the Jazz Discharge Party Hats, and then the closer on the album is We Are Not Alone. The closer on the CD is Luigi and the Wise Guys. Or well, it's not the closer on the CD, is it? Let me double check here. No, it's not the closer. Mogio is the closer on the CD. Luigi and the Wise Guys is the track just before that on the CD release. There are no guitar solos on this record, okay? You've got Steve Vai doing some pretty cool stuff with guitar, but no Zappa solos. We also get what is called the meltdown style that was developed, and this is for recited lyrics, all right? So it was a way, Arthur Barrow, the bass player, he would describe it as a way that the band would improvise collectively to play something while Zappa would essentially speak the lyrics to a song or do it in kind of a sing-song kind of way, that they were lyrics that weren't necessarily lent themselves to standard rhythmic formulas for singing and for music. So that's kind of how that worked. And you know, when I talk about the individual songs, you'll know what I'm talking about if you don't already. Now, this is a Barking Pumpkins release, as you see here. And the inner sleeve for the LP has lyrics on one side of the sheet, and then, you know, some promos on the other side of the insert, one for the Baby Snakes picture disc, and then the other one for the Frank Zappa guitar book, you know, that you would be able to order. The artwork is stylistically a pretty significant departure from what you would normally see on Zappa albums, particularly albums that were done when it comes to illustrative artwork that were done by, let's say, Cal Schenkel. This artwork is drawn by the Italian comic book artist Tonino Liberatore, or Liberatore, I should say. And it represents two parts of the Italian tour of 1982. So on the front, this is a characterization of Frank, depicted as Ranzirax, a character that was created by Liberatore and Stefano Tamburini, all right? And so you've got Zappa with his Fender Stratocaster, you know, crushing the neck here, breaking the neck. The strings are all broken. And then he's wielding this fly swatter, and you see all these little bugs, they're mosquitoes. And then the reference to Milano down here. So yeah, this represents the show in Milan, July 7th, 1982, at the Parco Redesio. Yeah, Redesio. I think that's how you pronounce it. So he's got this fly swatter, all right, that was given to him by an audience member to ward off all the mosquitoes, because apparently there were just swarms of mosquitoes at this outdoor venue. And the person who gave him the fly swatter, who was out in the audience, apparently that person's name was Deepinder Chima. All right. So, and incidentally, if you can't do that on stage anymore, Volume 1, the track for Zombie Wolf is taken from that show in Milan. Now, on the back is, the story behind the back is a little bit more interesting. So this is representing a concert that was at the Stadio Comunale La Favorito in Palermo, and this was on July 14th. All right, so the Milan show was July 7th, and then July 14th, they're in Palermo. Now, back here, you see you've got these armed police with riot shields, okay? And there's tear gas going off. Here's a tear gas canister flying off. And then, so we've got the armed police over here. We've got the Pope, all right? And we've got some members of the Swiss Guard guarding him. And then we've got all these drawings of people in the crowd, some of them celebrities, or at least perhaps Italian celebrities. I don't know if that's supposed to be Karl Marx, you know, right here or whatever. Then, of course, we got Frank. He's wielding the fly swatter and then, you know, crushing the neck of his Stratocaster like he was doing here. But this is representing Milan, and this one is Palermo. And then you see this 3-to-1 Vaffanculo. All right, this was a reference to Italy winning a soccer match against then West Germany. A little interesting bit about that I'm going to read from. This is the the big note, a little bit of the history on this. Okay, so the 3-1 Vaffanculo celebrates Italy's victory over West Germany in the World Cup on July 11th of that year. Vaffanculo means go fuck yourself, short for vai a fare in culo, or which literally go do it in the ass. And so Frank was saying about this, there were people with signs like that all over Italy during the time that we were playing there. When they won, you might as well have had World War III there. They went crazy. We were in Rome the night they won, and from 10 o'clock at night till 5 o'clock in the morning, it was the loudest, most continuous noise I've ever heard in my life. I taped it. And it's like a whole city with all these ancient monuments, right? And all the history of Rome, right? And it's full of people, like 3 at a time on a Vespa, all banging on pots and blowing horns and just screaming and driving around in circles in the street just because their football team beat Germany. So, Frank was not the biggest sports fan, and certainly thought that the enthusiasm for the victory during the World Cup was a bit much. But anyway, that's the story with the artwork going on with this album. I mean, it's interesting, but when it comes to artwork in general for Zappa albums, this is not, I would consider, in the top 10 artwork, for illustrative art for his covers. Interesting, nonetheless. But okay, so we'll talk about the songs on the record. It's a mix of some live recordings and studio recordings. The live recordings are heavily overdubbed with studio material. Some of it, though, is kind of interesting what was done, and other, I kind of wished I was able to hear the live recording without the overdubbed instrumentation that was added later. But anyway, it opens up with Cocaine Decisions. Probably, if you're familiar with Zappa, you probably know this song. And unlike many other, Zappa he had an anti-drug attitude in terms of recreational drugs, unless it was tobacco and coffee. And he tended to mock the hippies, and drug users in general. But, in Cocaine Decision and with some other songs, he was really going after the professional class. And he also specifically, with one of the lines, he calls out record company executives for, messing with his life. But it's definitely aimed at the professional class. You might be a doctor or a lawyer, So, he's going after that with the cocaine decision that you made today won't mean nothing at all later on, or something, something like that. It's an all right song. It's not bad. Then we get what is at least on this record, the first example of what is known as the meltdown style, and that's the song "The Dangerous Kitchen." So if you know the dangerous kitchen, who the fuck wants to clean it? That kind of sing-songy delivery of the lyrics, and then you have the band. So they were improvising as Zappa would be reciting the lyrics. This particular recording was taken from a live show at Austin, Texas, October 16, 1980. And there's also another little snippet that's included in there from another show from 1981, but it's unidentified. The first time I heard this style, the meltdown style, I really liked it. And in fact, at one of the shows that I saw, this would have been 1980 or 81, I went to the shows both of those years in Tucson at Old Main. And 1980, I only went to one show. There were two shows there were two shows both years, but I only went to one in 1980, and then I went to both shows, the early and the late show in 1981. But anyway, yeah, he performed The Dangerous Kitchen. And because I did not have this record at that time, that was the first time I had ever heard it. And I really liked it, and I enjoyed that particular style, but I found that it gets old really quickly, and it is a technique that shows up in other recordings. And, and he would do again from time to time. I mean, he even did The Torture Never Stops in a meltdown style, which frankly annoyed me when he did that. So anyway, that's The Dangerous Kitchen, which was, like I say, the first time I heard it, I thought it was a pretty fun song. Then we get this instrumental, a studio recording called Tink Walks Amok. And this is killer bass line, killer bass solo with Arthur Barrow playing bass. And that was his childhood nickname, Tink. So that's where the name comes from. And the other kind of very cool thing is, all right, during the studio recording, so, most of the time during a studio recording, the musicians, they're wearing headphones, in part, so that they can listen to, other musicians, but also hear, perhaps, instructions from, the booth. And that was what was going on with this particular song, because while Barrow was playing, Zappa would be relaying messages to him, to change his rhythm, change his key, go up or down the neck or something like that, while Barrow was playing, and also while they're recording. So it's actually a pretty cool little recording there, and I do like it. Then we get the song "The Radio Is Broken," which is, has a bit of the meltdown style to it. We've got also Roy Estrada is doing vocals. This is a studio recording, and there's many, many references in this song to films and to various songs. So, I mean, it talks about, there's references to the 1950 science fiction film Rocket Ship XM. That's referenced, but not accurately. The reference in the song is not true to the movie. Then we've got the Bocchino reference that comes from the Queen of Outer Space, a 1958 film. There's also this litany of stars from various films, such as, that are listed: John Agar, Morris Ankrum, Richard Basehart, Jackie Coogan, Sonny Tufts. These are people all mentioned. And then the guitar work that's going on in there, that's Steve Vai. So it's not Zappa. Yeah, it's an all right song. It's kind of fun. I wouldn't say it's like, super great or anything like that, but yeah, it's a pretty decent song. The instrumentals I really like a lot on this record, and the next song is an instrumental, Mojo. And this is from a live recording in Chicago, November 27th, 1981. However, it has keyboards and other percussion that was overdubbed later. This is one of those songs that I would love to hear without the overdubs. And off the top of my head, I don't know if there is a recording out there without the overdubs. Hey, if you know of one, leave a note in the Down Under for me. Now, the CD release, or releases, except for the twofer that was both Ship Arriving, Too Late to Save a Drowning Witch, and Man from Utopia, okay? Excluding that one, the CD releases also had a drum overdub by Chad Wackerman added. So if you don't want to hear at least that overdub, then you want to get the twofer CD release. And the song was actually inspired by one of Zappa's children, his daughter Diva. And it was from a dream she had when she was a young child. So that's where the idea of the song came from. Then we go into the song, which is a medley, The Man from Utopia Meets Mary Lou. So this is also the bass recording is from a live show from San Diego, December 12th, 1981. The overdubs are percussion, a keyboard, and some vocal overdubs. And what this is a medley of two songs from 1955. The Man from Utopia being one of them. And then the other one is Mary Lou, which perhaps most people will know about Bob Seger's cover of Mary Lou. But anyway, these were two doo-wop songs from 1955, and they were kind of built together, for this medley for The Man from Utopia Meets Mary Lou. This is followed by the studio recording Stick Together, which is kind of a reggae-style rhythm with kind of R&B style backing vocals. And this is one of Zappa's many takes regarding unions. He was not a fan of unions. What's interesting about it, though, is that he does say in this song, that it was a good idea at the start. And then, things kind of, fell apart. This is interesting because the same year that this was released, Bob Dylan releases Infidels, and he also had a song on there called Sundown on the Union, where he says essentially the same thing, that, it was a great idea at the start until greed got in the way. I just, found that a little bit, interesting. This is followed by a studio recording, Sex, which, it's an all right song. And, it's got that refrain, the bigger the cushion, the better the pushing. So it's, it's an all right song. It's, again, nothing, incredibly significant about it. Just another song about sex that Frank wrote. This is followed by something that Zappa did during, it's an improvisational meltdown that was recorded at a live show that was in Carbondale, Illinois, November 15th, 1980, and that's the Jazz Discharge Party Hats. So it's just this rendition of the antics of the members of the band with some particularly used and unhygienic panties that they received from women in the audience. So that's particular concert, or he's in Carbondale doing this, but he's talking about a concert that was in Albuquerque, New Mexico, that same year, but in October 12th, or 11th and 12th. The Carbondale show was November 15th. So this was like less than a month, it would be slightly more than a month after the show in Albuquerque. To me, what's most interesting about this song is that you will hear while Zappa is going through the story, you've got this acoustic guitar playing essentially note for note each word, all right, that Zappa is reciting. And what happened is Steve Vai took the recording, transcribed the notes for what Frank was saying in this meltdown style, and then played it, did an overdub, and then played that. So that's what you get accompanying Zappa while he is telling the story about the Jazz Discharge Party Hats. Then the vinyl album is going to close now with the instrumental We Are Not Alone. So this is a studio recording, and I really, really like this song. It's got Marty Crystal on tenor and bass saxophone. Playing bass saxophone first, which you don't always hear, bari sax, yeah, you don't often hear bass saxophone. And then also tenor saxophone. Just killer playing on both these instruments. It's a really very, very cool song. I really do like it. It is probably my favorite track on the album. Now, this is the closer for both the vinyl and also for the CD release, but on the CD release, you have a song before it, and that's Luigi and the Wise Guys, all right? Which, I have heard. I'm not as familiar with it as the other tracks, but this is a doo-wop style song. You've got Roy Estrada singing falsetto, this Pachuco style of falsetto. And then it's not quite a cappella, but they're doing, finger snaps while they're doing the singing. And then there's some bass drum in there. Some other voices do come in the middle after Roy is singing in the first part. Those voices include Bob Harris and Robert Martin, Ray White and Ike Willis. Zappa is singing bass in this. It's an okay song, Luigi, by the way, it was the nickname for one of the roadies during this tour. So, it's an all right song. I don't miss it from the album release. And like I say, I don't have it on CD. But there you go. That's the record, and not a bad one. As I said at the start, that this was among my top 20. It's been pushed out of that list. In particular, once you start getting around, where I start rating number 8 and then higher, or lower, I guess, and going into the teens and up to number 20, I tend to, that changes, quite a bit. My top records are pretty fixed, which I've talked about before in a different video, where I did a rating of my top 20 Zappa albums. And, if I were to do it again today, it would be slightly different, except for maybe the top 5 or so. Anyway, so this isn't in the top 20 anymore, but it's a decent album. This is a pretty good album. Interesting. It's just different artwork. I'm not necessarily a big fan of the artwork, but it is different from the other. So there you have it. Leave a comment in the down under, and please hit the like button because it does help with distribution of the content. You can subscribe if you want, but maybe you already are subscribed, and even if you are subscribed, I really do appreciate and would ask you to hit the like button. That helps. You can find me also on Instagram as NewsDude76. That's NEWZDUDE76. I have a Facebook page called Calvin Wazoo, where I have, besides links to these videos, I have other content, music related, that I post there. So hope you enjoyed that. I hope to hear from you. And always remember to pray for the people inside your head, for they won't be there when you're dead.